What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, the name has changed from Guam Cards to my real name, which is Ken. Um, but I am back. I am playing Hearthstone again. I took a small break. Wasn't really playing. Was waiting for Blackrock Mountain to come out completely. It is now out completely. It's a new season. So I'm going to mess around with a bunch of pre-stacks and play them. And we're not going to push for Legend just because I don't have enough time to play as much as I used to, but we'll see how competitive these lists can be. So this first list is a hybrid list. There are actually a bunch of priest lists that we're going to go through, but if you notice the last two or three videos, I was playing a control list, and this is this hybrid list, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. Um, Basically, I built the deck wanting someone was asking for advice on their pre-stack, and I thought their pre-stack was pretty solid looking all around, and I was making some changes, and I kind of ended up with this. Um, and at a first glance, it seems a lot like the OTK list that Tides of Time was playing, except with none of the the one-turn kill pieces. So no Alexstrasza, or except for Emperor, but no Alexstrasza, no Double Mind Blast, no Resurrect, no Injured Blade Masters, a bunch of cards that uh, that came out. You know what I mean? So now this deck doesn't have the one-turn kill ability, but what we lose in one-turn kill ability, we gain in consistency and power. So now the deck doesn't have the Mind Blast, but it has an extra Holy Nova. It has a Healbot, has Harrison Jones, it has a Vol'jin, it has a Cabal Shadow Priest. It has a bunch of late game cards to kind of push, uh, to push the game in the latter rounds of the game. I think the deck is pretty good. I'm very impressed with the synergy of a bunch of cards. So this video will just be a deck tech. We're going to talk a little bit more about it in general. As you can see, there's a list right there. So we're running 2 Circle of Healing. We're running this because we're running Akanai Soul Priest, and because we're running Wild Pyromancer, and because we're running Acolyte of Pain. We want the synergy between all those cards, as well as some synergy with Northshire Cleric. It's a free card. This is easy, efficient use of mana. I like it. We're keeping it. We're using 1 Holy Smite. That's because we want more activators for Pyromancer. And I think 1 is just a good number. We're also using 1 Light of the Naru. I could see going to 2 Light of the Naru and get rid of Holy Smite, or maybe going 2 Holy Smites and getting rid of the Light of the Naru, or maybe even taking another card out and adding another Light of the Naru. Light of the Naru is a lot better than I originally gave it credit for. It does 2 things really important. First, it heals for quite a bit at an efficient cost, and most of the time you're going to get a creature off of it. Okay, and while a 1/2 creature is not that big of a deal, it is still something that is on the board, and it's still buffable, and that puts your opponents in a kind of a weird state of play. One thing you'll notice that's missing from the list is no Injured Blade Master. I don't think Injured Blade Master is a bad card. I think it's a very good card, but I think in very aggressive environments, maybe you don't really need it. And that might be a mistake. Maybe we need to take 2 late game cards out and put Injured Blade Masters in. But as the deck is now, I don't really feel a need for it. We're running 2 Power Word Shield. It's a cantrip, and it works well with Wild Pyromancer. Also works well with Chromaggus, and also works well with Acolyte of Pain, which we'll discuss more later. 2 Northshire Clerics, which is our greatest draw engine. We are also running 2 Shadow Word Deaths. I feel like this is one of the most efficient removal out there. If you're willing to run BGH, you should probably be willing to run 2 of these. I could see dropping 1 out for like a flex card, like, if you know for sure you're only facing Hunters and Mages, then you drop this for a Kazan Mystic or something. But for me, 2 Shadow Word Deaths. Let's see what else we're running here. We're running 2 Akanai Soul Priests for that board wipe ability on turn 4, turn 5. Obviously we want that with Circle Healing. 2 Holy Novas. This deck is really geared towards the early levels of the ladder when there's quite a bit of aggro aggressive decks. So there's that. We're running 1 Vol'jin. Vol'jin's got the synergy with the Smite. It's got synergy with Holy Nova. It's a nice card to kind of take care of, just big threats unexpected threats are in the game. Shadow Word Death is good, but it doesn't hit a lot of the targets, like if they have a Twilight Drake. So if a Warlock goes turn 4 Twilight Drake, you really don't have the answer. But at least this way, you can follow up that with this. And he can't really trade in his advantage. We also have 2 Light Bomb. Light Bomb to me is one of the best removal in the game. I like it so much that I play 2. Especially because our creatures, their power is much less than their toughness. So usually they will survive Light Bomb. And it makes for interesting draws and plays later in the game. 1 Cabal Shadow Priest. Actually, let's change this to this one right there. Cabal is a pretty good late game card. No Mind Control. That's a pretty big card that's missing. If Paladin is a much more prevalent list, or Control Warrior, then yeah, we'll definitely be putting Mind Control back in. But for now, we want to be geared towards aggro. Let's look at the neutral cards now. So once again, we have Wild Pyromancer. It's a good board clear, very good early game card, self-explanatory. And we have 2 Acolyte of Pain here. Now this is something new, and it has a lot of synergy, especially with like cards like Wild Pyromancer, Power Word Shield, because 3 toughness early in the game is pretty tough to get. Well, I can't say it's tough to get rid of, but this card can be very resilient with the right buffs, and depending on how you stagger, it's summoning it with Wild Pyro and things of that nature. You look at Thoughtsteal. Thoughtsteal gets you 2 random cards. Acolyte of Pain most of the time is going to get you at least 1 card. In most of my experience, it gives me 2 cards. So I'd say 1.5 cards is worth it. Yeah, there's that. And to combat aggro, especially hunters, Deathlord is probably the best card out there. Now, this does have synergy with Light Bomb, because sure, it mitigates 8 damage, but the real power is that, maybe it pulls out an Alexstrasza, maybe it pulls out a Dr. Boom, maybe it pulls out a threat that, is more valuable with its battle cry. And, if you're able to get those things out, then you just kill it with the Shadow Word Death, And against very aggressive decks, they don't play those late game cards most of the time. So this is most of the time going to do a lot of work. There's Deathlord. 1 heal bot just for the heals. 1 Harrison Jones because Control Warrior, or because all versions of Warrior are fucking hard to deal with, and Rogue is pretty difficult too. So Harrison Jones gives you a nice little extra draw. And Emperor. Now you notice that we don't have a lot of combo pieces here, but what we do have is a lot of card draw. We have Harrison, we have Northshire, we have Power Word Shield, we have Acolyte of Pain. We have a lot of ways to proc draw and to build cards up as we get to turn 6. And because of that, Emperor is a good fit in here, because even if we play Emperor on curve, most of the time we're going to get a large value out of it. And that's very important, and that's why that's when you want to play Emperor. You want to play Emperor when your game is more of late game oriented, and when your hand is full, when you're holding as many cards as possible. This is not necessary, but I really think Emperor really affects the board state and allows you to do a lot of things that you normally wouldn't be able to do. We have Sylvanas, which is a staple in all priest decks. Honestly, I wish they just made Sylvanas a priest card. We have a Dr. Boom, and we have a Chromaggus. Now, you notice Dr. Boom is the only BGH target in the deck, and that's okay. I was thinking of putting Ysera in, but because I don't have Mind Control, I'm worried about people taking my Ysera, and I also don't think Ysera puts enough of a board presence against aggressive decks. Dr. Boom plays faster on the curve, and it puts three creatures on the board. And all I care about is beating the aggressive decks, okay? So, but you could change this. This could be Trogzor, this could be Baron Geddon, this could be Toshli. Toshli is a great card, underrated. Could be many things. Rag, but for me, I'm just going to use Dr. Boom. And last but not least, we got Chromaggus. Chromaggus is a hitting killer. If you've seen the other videos, you'll notice Chromaggus really can do a lot of work. You can play this on turn 9 with the Power Word Shield. You can play this and then heal something up with the Northshire Cleric on board. You can play this, trade an Acolyte of Pain or something. There's a lot of ways to proc the draw and to get value. So that's the deck, and the next video we'll actually play a game or two and see how it does.